something that needs improvement, we've revised this site many times based on the feedback that we get. I'm going to, yeah.
If a bill is passed and signed and the note is enacted, does it then drop off of this?
No, it would still be there. And for that reason, I'm going to try a bill that I know that's here, just so I can show you how it works. 8044 is the bigger, better bottle bill.
Which we support.
I often use this as a demonstration. Now, just to be a little tricky, I'm going to try one more time in case I typed it in wrong, this other number. Yeah, I don't know why this 811 bill isn't there. But see that I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to guess that this number might actually, there might be an extra digit in there. I might be wrong.
It's okay. It is possible.
But I don't know. I don't know. So if you pull up a bill like this bill, the first items that come up are the most basic information, the prime sponsor. If it's an A bill, that means it's an assembly bill. And the prime sponsor is Sweeney, Assemblyman Sweeney, happens to be from Long Island. And then you see the summary, which tells you what sections of law the bill would amend, and it gives a brief description of what the bill does. I often find the summary to be almost incomprehensible. So you almost always want to view more details about what the bill is. And there's two types of information that we've pretty much determined are the most frequent types of information people are looking for, and this is why we arranged the buttons like this. You could look to see who lobbied on the bill, or you could look to see about more information about the bill itself. So I'm going to look at the bill details right now. I'll come back to, you know what's going on here? The legislative session is over, and the bill numbers are all getting changed. So this is up to date, and so these bill numbers are changing.
But can you look for it by name?
Well, it doesn't exist anymore as a bill.
Oh, it doesn't.
That's what's going on here. So I can't demonstrate that to you because it's so up to date. The bill doesn't exist anymore.
People who come to this are people like me. Right?
Yeah.
I just want information.
Right.
So there should be a source of that somewhere.
Right.
Why not there?
Well, what we could do is look up signed laws because those exist, but the bill no longer exists. The session is over. Now, a year ago, it would have still been there because the session isn't over until after the close of the legislative session in an even year, because the entire legislature is being elected. So this site, what we're looking at is, the reason that those bills weren't there is that they no longer exist as bills.
Is it because they're law or because they just disappear when the session's over?
They disappear when the session's over. So if this did not pass, the bigger, better bottle bill did not pass into law.
So it's gone, it's in...
It's gone. Sweeney has to reintroduce it next year. If Sweeney gets reelected, it will have a new number. These bills, he would have to reintroduce. The sponsors have to reintroduce. When I did the run through a couple weeks ago, that information was still here. So this is so up to date that I can't demonstrate what I wanted to show you.
So there are no more bills on there's nothing there, no bills
because they don't exist.
They're not in session. Does it work? January. January.
So let me show you some other things. Now,
Excuse me.
yes.
Are you saying that at the end of a legislative session, everything vanishes?
That's right.
And everything must begin again from ground zero?
That's correct. Other than bills that they actually passed both houses and were signed into law.
So in the interim, let's just guess, lobbying is going on, what's going on?
Lobbying is always going on. What's going on right now is the legislators, by and large, are, well, there's two things that are going on that are, and I'm making a broad generalization here, but those who are seeking re-election are 7 weeks out from their re-election. Some of them had primaries. There are quite a few primaries this year. The governor is also preparing to call a special session to deal with the state's fiscal crisis. And they might be called back shortly to act on, the governor has the power to call an emergency session.
So what's the lead time in the fall before things start happening?
The session begins again in January.
Or in
So-
January?
After, the session is supposed to end in June. Sometimes it goes later than that. I believe that it did end in June this year. The governor has the power to call special sessions, and he already did that once, and I think he's going to do that again. The new legislature gets sworn in on New Year's Day, and the legislature will convene to hear the governor's State of the State speech in early January. That's when they start going to Albany every week. That's when they start reintroducing their bills. The session does not end at the end of an odd year. The session ends at the end of an even year. So even when they're not going to Albany, they're technically still in session. Right now, theoretically, every legislator could be voted out of office. It's not likely to happen, but it's theoretically possible. And that's why all the bills have to be reintroduced. I used to work for a state legislator, and when we did this, we had to decide what bills we wanted to reintroduce, what we wanted to adjust in some way. Now, I think I could show you lobby activities, because what we're filing here are lobby reports. And the lobby reports, an up-to-date lobby report, if the bill doesn't exist in real time, we have lobby reports that go back several cycles. So, any other questions before I go on?
Is it by lobbyist?
Mhm.
So go to Barbara Bartoletti, who's our lobbyist.
Sure. Bartoletti, B-A...
She's our state lobbyist, so we might as well do something we care about, right?
B-A-R-T, Bart, A,
Bart O,
Bart, O.
B-A-R-T-O-L-E-T-T-I.
Now, she could be registered as Bartoletti or as League of Women Voters.
Right,
So if she's
Legal
not
Women
there,
Voters
I'm gonna
of
put
New
in-
York State.
I think I could do it, let me see if I could put in voters and see what comes up. League of Conservation Voters and League of Women Voters.
League of Women
The
Voters.
reason I put in voters is, if you don't know the whole name,
It'll list them.
yeah. So here's League of Women Voters, and the first thing that comes up is the address. This is where the lobby reports are filed.
62 grand.
Now I'm going to pull up the reports. Now we have reports going back the last 2 years. There are two types of reports. The client needs to file a report, and the lobbyist needs to file a report. Barbara Bartoletti, let me step back for a moment. There are basically three types of lobbyists. There's actually more, but for purposes of this discussion, there's three types of lobbyists. Usually when you think of a lobbyist, you think of the hired gun. Think of somebody like an attorney who works for a firm who, like an attorney, will take on clients for a fee. These are the stereotypical lobbyists. These are the lobbyists that if they're very good, they can make a lot of money. The second type of lobbyist is what's known as the in-house lobbyist. An in-house lobbyist has basically one client, and in fact, doesn't even have a client, is an employee of the organization, is only affiliated with the organization. Barbara Bartoletti is an in-house lobbyist. She does not take on clients other than the League of Women Voters. Nonetheless, she must file both as a client and as a lobbyist. So what we're looking up here is, actually, there's a reason that she, in her particular case, does not have to file as a lobbyist herself, but the league has to file as a client. I won't get into that because it gets too complicated. But here are the expenses that the league has spent on lobbying for each of these cycles. And take a look at these numbers. So March and April of 2008, the league spent just over $7,000 on lobbying. And I'm going to actually pull up, I'm going to look to see what bills the league lobbied on. The league and any lobbyist has to report what bills he or she lobbied on. Now you might be looking at this and wondering, well, what was the league's position on these bills? New York State does not require either a client or a lobbyist to indicate what position that organization is taking. Simply that the lobbyist is lobbying on that particular bill. Now, I could pull up the actual report, but I just want to show by comparison. Let's take a look